All right, today I'm going to talk to you about how to find costs. So this is chapter 9. We're finishing up our culinary math, preparing for our final exam in the end of December. So let's get started. What you're going to do is a little different than the way we've been conducting the other units. You're going to be taking some notes and then submitting that. The practice notes, and then at the end you'll do the 3 practice final exam questions like we've been doing, and then there'll be a separate video to go over it. All right, so first off, finding costs. So what is the point? So the reason why you need to know how to find costs is because if you are making and selling food, you need to know how much that food costs so that you make profit. You want to be profitable. All right, so the first formula you need to be familiar with is determining the cost per unit. So a unit is defined as an individual item. So like if you have a dozen eggs, you have 12 units, all right? And then whatever you pay for that dozen eggs is your as purchase cost. So you do this calculation a lot in your head. You just don't necessarily think about it. It should be pretty simple math. So here is an example. So you purchased 12 apples for $9.78, and it's asking you how much is it per unit. So think about how are you going to set that up? How much is one apple? All right, so here's how you would set that up. You would take your as purchase price of $9.78 and your number of units was 12, and you would just divide the 2 and you would get 0.815. And now because it's money, you're always going to round up. So it's 82 cents for one apple. Next formula you need to be familiar with is calculating total cost. So, and you can kind of go any which way when you use these formulas. So total cost equals the number of units times the cost per unit. So what are some situations you think you would use this formula when you're buying bulk items or things like that? There's lots of instances that you could probably think of in your head. So let's apply it. So you are catering a wedding with 200 guests. Each guest will eat approximately 2 appetizers, and they cost about 20 cents to make. What is your total cost? So think of how you're going to take these numbers and set it up in our formula. And here is our answer. So you're going to have your 200 guests, and you're going to multiply that by 2 because each guest is going to have 2 appetizers. And so in total, you are going to have 400 appetizers. You take that, multiply it by 20 cents, because that's how much it is per portion, and you're going to get your total cost of $80. All right, so you'll record that in your document. So here's some extra practice. So 3 different problems applying the total cost formula and the cost per unit formula. So the first one is find the cost for 1 can from a 6-pack of soda, and it sells for $2.98. And then number 2, you purchase 5 pounds of cheese for $28. How much is 1 pound? And then the third, what is the total cost for a case of bread? Within that case, there's 20 loaves. Each loaf costs $3.83. Okay, so let's apply it. All right, so you figure that out. So the first one, you find the cost for 1 can by you're taking your as purchase cost, which is $2.98. You divide by 6 because there were 6 units in that, and you're going to get about 50 cents. So that's rounded up. All right, so you record that in your document. Number 2, you purchase 5 pounds of cheese for $28. How much is it a pound? So your as purchase cost is that $28. There were 5 pounds in your purchase, so you divide that by 5, and each pound ends up calculating out to $5.60 for 1 pound of your cheese. And then your third situation, what is the total cost for a case of bread? So you have 20 loaves, and each loaf is $3.83. So you take your number of units, which is 20 loaves of bread, you times it by your cost per unit, which is $3.83. And when you do that calculation, you get your total cost of $76.60 for 1 full case of bread. All right, so now what we're going to do is you're going to do your 3 practice problems. So you're going to calculate each one. So problem, and make sure you write out the steps like we did in class, and then there'll be a separate video for checking your work. So problem 1 is about the cost of pecans, problem 2 is about honey with a conversion, and problem 3 is about shredded coconut, also with a conversion. So you're going to do those on your document, and then you can, if you feel confident, you don't need to watch the video. If you don't feel confident, you can go through the video, me explaining how to do them. Thank you.